There's a critical bug in the selective acknowledgement TCP code in the Linux kernel, but it may not be as bad as you think.
So Matt, you've got a story for this week having to do with SAC TCP.
Yes. So SAC is selective acknowledgement. It's part of the TCP stack. And it turns out there's a set of vulnerabilities affecting different versions of the Linux kernel.
Anything that obviously deals with kernel level bugs is something to take very serious.
So selective acknowledgement allows in TCP the receiver of packets to acknowledge, like, I got packets 1 through 3 and 4 and 7, and please only send me the ones that I've missed. Right. It seems like it's a pretty good feature, but typically it's not enabled, which is also one of the saving graces that this bug is going to be affecting a smaller set of devices because this isn't a feature you typically enable. But there are at least 4 different CVEs that have been found by a group at Netflix, and the bug actually affects at least one of them, the most critical one that they're calling SAC Panic, affects the Linux kernel going back to version 2.6.29, which came out in 2009. Mm-hmm. So there's probably, there's about a decade's worth of devices running Linux that are potentially affected by this, but again, that population should be small because it's an optional feature that's disabled by default. So Red Hat has a patch, SUSE has a patch. Some of these are full patches or temporary patches, but they are, communicating about it, pushing out the patches that they've got. AWS has some plans to fix some features and has fixed other features. And at this point, there's a whole bunch of vendors who just haven't said anything. So the big question remains, as of today when we're taping, this Tuesday, who is actually vulnerable to this?
Right, now, so this is, you said it's not typically enabled by default.
Correct.
And from what I understand, it's not enabled by default because it does actually produce some bit of overhead.
Yes. So then instead of saying, I didn't get everything, give me this whole range again, you've got to keep the state of what package have I seen, which is, a little bit overhead. Okay. And on busier systems, obviously more overhead.
Yeah.
That SAC panic bug, the name suggests, this is a kernel panic bug. So if you manage to send the right packets to your target, you can crash the machine, which is, it's a problem.
Yeah. So, and then you said that there's patches available. So I'm assuming these patches would require reboots on the.
That's a very good question. I think that's the case with it whenever you replace the running kernel on a Linux system. I think you do have to reboot the box.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you think about it. It's one of the more serious bugs that are out there, and as soon as you have one of those more serious bugs that requires a reboot for the patch, that's where I think you have a little more pain points in terms of
because people with production servers will say, I can't possibly bring it down, or they don't have a plan for a disaster recovery in case of something. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So,
well, we'll see where it goes. It certainly was a sort of a busy week in terms of interesting bugs. This is just one more thing to throw on the pile, I guess.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, so you mentioned AWS, and if you actually drill into their security bulletin and kind of read through all the affected services, they're patching their images that are affected, but they also call out, some of their platform as a service or software as a service. In some cases, it requires some action on the user's part. In other cases, it's, you automatically get the updated version. So if you're a public cloud user, specifically AWS, you're able to go out and see what services you have enabled, and if it requires any action for you to take updates to make sure you're protected against this.
Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, I was just thinking that I should clarify that when I say the bug doesn't affect machines where it's disabled by default, there's still a possibility that some administrator will make a configuration change at some point and enable it, which is why you're still got to patch all these boxes. I would say that even if you're not using a feature at the moment, if there is a security patch for it and the code exists on your box, you should probably patch it. I realize you may want to rank it lower if you have to triage what bugs you have to patch in order, but eventually you should get around to patching it.